What documents you need to collect and provide to support your 3508S application. It's a new application for the PPP Loan Forgiveness for the borrowers who received $50,000 or less. Please, if you haven't watched my previous video about this application and how to fill it in, please watch my video where I showed you in all details how to do that. In this video, we will talk about the documentation, the supporting documentation that you need to collect and provide in order for your PPP loan to be forgiven. If you are a sole proprietor and don't have any W-2 employees, the forgiveness application only needs to include documentation showing that you paid out the loan to the proprietor, which means to yourself, to your business, right? If, for example, if you receive $10,000 of PPP loan, you need to provide documentation showing that over the 24 weeks, of course, you have an option to select 8 weeks, but I don't know why. It's not favorable to you. Yeah, so I advise everybody to select 24 weeks. And you need to show that over the 24 weeks following receipt of the loan from your date of disbursement, it paid out $10,000 to the owner, to yourself. For example, $1,000 checks paid to your work as a proprietor, as an owner. So do 10 $1,000 electronic payments. To document $10,000 of spending, the forgiveness application includes canceled checks or bank transmittals or other documentation that shows the payments. If you have a more complicated situation, you need to do more work to gather the documentation. But what you want to keep in mind, these 4 very simple principles. First, you want to document enough forgivable spending to get full forgiveness. In other words, if you need $50,000 of forgiveness, you need $50,000 of documentation. Don't go over it, above it, okay? Next, show at least 60% of the spending went toward payroll costs, including salaries, wages, state payroll taxes, group health insurance, and retirement benefits. Work from the easiest to gather documentation you can, which is probably any payroll reports prepared by third-party payroll services, like Form 941's quarterly payroll reports will be very appropriate. And finally, document both the payment and the reason for a payment for non-payroll costs. For example, if you want forgiveness for paying rent, you need both a check to the landlord to show the rent payment and the rental agreement to show the reason. And again, then those, for non-payroll spending, the documentation works to verify that an obligation or service existed before February 15, 2020. And this is very important for you to show, to be able to show that these non-payroll spendings you had prior to February 15, 2020. And also you need to show that eligible payments were made for business mortgage interest payments, business rent or lease payments, and business utility payments. All these are legitimate. But if you have 100% covered with payroll expenses, it's fine. You don't need to show and provide supporting documentation for non-payroll related. Now, how do you submit Form 3508S forgiveness application? You submit the completed application and any required documentation to the PPP lender. The bank from whom you received the money. And the rules say the lender will review the application and make a decision regarding loan forgiveness. And then within 60 days from receipt of a complete application, communicate their decision to SBA, Small Business Administration. And SBA then looks at the loan and then makes a decision if it's a legitimate forgiveness or not. And they have to review and make their determination not later than 90 days after the lender issues its decision to SBA. So it might take some time, but hopefully the whole process will speed up after as these things are developing further. The only one thing is if a borrower fails to apply for forgiveness within 10 months after the covered period ends, the PPP loan is no longer deferred and the borrower must begin paying principal and interest. So you have that 10 months window after your covered period ends, after your 24 months ends, if you have chosen 24 months versus 24 weeks versus 8 weeks. So after 10 months, after those 24 weeks expired, and the loan hasn't been forgiven, you will have to pay it back. And there is one, this is for the loans for 50,000 K and less. And there is a consideration for small businesses that obtained a PPP loan in excess of 50,000, but less than 150,000. There is a pending legislation that, if approved by Congress and the President, would provide a similar one-page PPP forgiveness request for PPP loans under $150,000. So let's wait and see. For now, this form relates only to the PPP loans of $50,000 and less. Hope this video was helpful, this information was helpful to you. If yes, please give me a like, subscribe to the channel, and share with others.